Why is word are so powerful? Word basically are a gateway or are the window for us to see the world. A couple days ago, I posted a video that asked the question, what is the difference between sin, iniquity, transgression, trespass, fornication, and wickedness? You know, for me, learning to define word being a way for me to have a mental picture of how things are. It actually gives you a way to see clearly of how things are in our world. And understanding the difference between this terminology, in a way, help us to see our own nature, the grace of God, and the power of salvation. Sin basically starts with Satan. Before Lucifer, the archangel, choose to align his will with his own will. He refused to align his will with God. Since he decided he didn't want to align his will with God's will, sin became a reality. Sin, according to book of Romans, it is defined as missing the mark. And what is the mark that humanity missed? Basically, it is God's will. God created everything in the universe, especially a spiritual being with a will. And every spiritual being that he created must exercise that will. Because if you don't align yourself with God's will, it would be God forcing you to be in his presence. Sin is refusing to align yourself with God's will. It's a rebellion against God's will. Before Lucifer, which eventually becomes Satan, decided he doesn't want to align himself with God's will, sin did not exist. The minute he refused to align himself with God's will, he became a sinner. And we all know the penalty of sin is death. And death is basically separation from God. And Lucifer basically lost his place in everlasting existence. And he was kicked down, to where mankind was. And then he went and tempted Adam. Adam basically transgressed a boundary. Transgression means violating a boundary, crossing a boundary. So transgression means to cross a known boundary. God created a boundary. He told Adam and Eve, you can eat anything in the garden except one tree. And what did they do? Satan knew and tempted them and tested them. And they failed the test and transgressed a boundary, crossed a known boundary. And because they crossed a known boundary, that led them into iniquity. Iniquity is a sin that is inborn. It becomes inborn sin. Anybody that came after Adam and Eve basically is born in iniquity. King David in the book of Psalms says, I was formed in iniquity in my mother's womb. Anybody who is born a woman is born in sin. And that sin is iniquity, a sin that we are basically bent toward evil. And what evil basically means is the absence of good, because God is good. Anything that is absent of God is evil. Satan, when he sinned, he became evil because there was no good in him anymore. And he came down to earth after he was cast down, book of Revelation 12, where the Bible says, woe unto the inhabitant of the earth, for Satan, the devil, has come down to you, having great wrath. What is the wrath? No good, nothing good. Having a wrath. Why? Because his time is short. For some reason, after he lost his place in eternity, God said, okay, I'll send you on earth and with a time limit. See, because I'm sure he accused God that Adam was in our line with God because he didn't have a choice. And Adam basically crossed a known boundary, and he transgressed, and his transgression led him to iniquity, a sin that became our inborn tendency, a trait that any child who is born on this earth is born in iniquity, meaning they have tendency toward evil. It's easier, it becomes our default. The minute you are born by default, sin become easy. You lean towards sin. You bend towards sin. Our inclination is not toward God because of Adam's sin. Trespass, on the other hand, is a sin that we commit without knowing. That's why Jesus, when he was teaching his disciple, he said in one of his model prayer that he taught humanity was that you can forgive others their trespasses as God forgives us, our trespasses. Trespass is a sin that we commit without knowing, unknowingly. Every day we have blind spot that, we do things without even knowing, because that's part of trespasses. And that's why God wants us at all times to confess our sin. Fornication is just sexual sin outside God's moral standards. If you are shacking before marriage, you are committing fornication, and that is outside God's standard. Wickedness, on the other hand, is a lifestyle of evil, a lifestyle of no good. And that Satan basically is wicked, because his lifestyle, his habit, his way of being is contrary to God's will, is contrary to what is good. And anytime you see a person that is wicked, that their intention, their thought, and their plan is continually evil, the Bible calls that person wicked. That's why even when Jesus, in Matthew chapter 25, the parable of the talent, Jesus even described laziness. And he called a man that did not, work on his talent that was given to him as wicked. He said, lazy, he called him lazy and wicked servant. He said, take that servant, cast him into a lake of fire. Because laziness is a lifestyle. It is a habit. Laziness is a serious issue. It's not a casual, phenomenon, because it is part of, is a habit, something that is opposite of good. There's no good to it. So if you are lazy, in a way, you are wicked. And wickedness is dangerous because it becomes part of you. And it's good to be aware of this terminology so you can pray to God with an awareness, with power. You can know sin come from Satan. It means not yielding his will to God's will. And transgression it was brought into being by, actually, iniquity was brought into existence because Adam transgressed a known boundary. He transgressed God's command. And trespass is a sin that we commit without knowing, unknowingly. So you and we all have blind spot. Jesus Christ, God sent Jesus into the world as a ransom. A ransom is buying something back to redeem you and I from the penalty of sin. And penalty of sin is death, which is complete separation from God. Because anything contrary to his will is sin. That's why God said for man to be redeemed, he has to send his only begotten Son, that whosoever is an exercise of a will. All of us on earth has a will, and God said, okay, exercise your will. I give you a redeemer. I give you a bridge that will justify you, because once you accept Christ as your Savior, you become justified, just as you did not sin. And that brings you back into the presence of God. We've been given the process of salvation. Salvation is the process of accepting a Redeemer through forgiveness of sin. You can confess. You say, God, I'm sorry. For confession is agreeing with God. He's saying, God, I agree with you. I agree with your will. I yield my will into your will. That's what confession is. It's agreeing with God. Say, God, you're right. I have transgressed. I have crossed your boundary, your line, your moral standards. And I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I accept the ransom. I accept the free gift that you offer. I accept Jesus Christ as my Redeemer, as someone that paid the price for my iniquity, which was sin that brought into existence by our poor parent, Adam and Eve. So confession is so powerful. That's why I think knowing this word, knowing terminology, give you a mental picture to see your own being, your state. When I understand sin is refusing to yield my will to God's will, I pray with power. I pray with an awareness. And I know when I do pray, God will answer my prayer, because God put a process in place. If I confess my sin, if I agree with him, he already put a provision in place. He already put his Son, he already put a salvation, a Redeemer in place. All I need to do is accept it and agree with him and confess my sin, my known sin, my transgression, my trespasses. And once I confess, the Bible says he will give me the grace, the power to be able to live in his will. And once you live in your will, you're no longer a wicked man. Anytime you sin and fall short, you confess. And every time you confess, God said he justified you. Just like you never sinned. He invites you in his presence. Once you confess your sin, you are justified. You're not like, then God can hear you. Because nothing will make God not to hear you than sin. Sin basically is separation from God, and the penalty of it is death. So when you're living a life of wickedness, a life of evil, which is a life that has no good, that becomes your lifestyle, you reach a state where God cannot hear you anymore. and you cannot hear God, which is even worse. And that's why it's so powerful that you understand word. You know, God has given the gift of communication only to a spiritual being. And that's why Satan worked so hard to create confusion. First of all, he brought many language as a way of disobedience of God, and we are confused. And then many people don't understand term. We use terminologies that we just blot them through our brain. We don't really understand them and comprehend them. And that's exactly what Satan wants. He doesn't want you to take advantage of the power of word, because word paint a picture, give you a clear picture. That's why when you use word to describe things to somebody, they were like, oh wow, I did not see it before. You give them a ha-ha moment. And they're like, because you say it this way, now I can see clearly. That's the power of word. And that's why you need to have more vocabulary. When you study God's word, you should understand, you should try to know what the vocabulary means, what this word means. Because when you know, you become aware of your own being as a sinful being that transgress God's law. And because of transgression that was committed by Adam, we all are born in iniquity, which is a sin which is a form of sin that we are bent toward disobeying God. It's our nature to disobey. It's our nature to be passive. It is our nature to live in a lower standard. But once you know who you are, and you know, you understand, you've been forgiven. You've been given a redeemer, and you now understand. Because once you accept Christ, you'll be redeemed. The Bible says you are now a new creation. You become a new man. A new man now live as a redeemed. I'm justified. I'm no longer hold down by sin. I'm a child of the Most High God, and I should live on a higher plane. Because a child of God, his lifestyle is opposite of a wicked man lifestyle. He strives to obey God at all times. He strives to yield his will to God's will at all times. Where do you stand today? Do you accept the gift? Are you in agreement with God and confess your sin and accept the free offer through Jesus Christ and feel justified and be justified, so you can live a lifestyle of a redeemed, a lifestyle of a child of the Most High God? If that's your desire, I encourage you to confess your sin right now and invite Christ into your life, accept him, and you will be justified, and you will live a lifestyle opposite of wickedness. May God bless you.